Welcome to the presentation on the banning of the fishing super trawler, the Abel Tasman. The Abel Tasman, a fishing super trawler, had been authorised to catch 18,000 tonnes of fish along the south coast of Australia. However, due to public opposition, environmental activists and political movements, legislation was passed banning the boat from trawling Australian waters for at least 2 years. The owners of the Abel Tasman were in a joint venture with Seafish Tasmania, who were looking to target mackerel and redbait for exportation. The federal government decided to impose a 2-year ban on super trawlers in Australian waters in November 2012, after initially imposing a 60-day ban in September of the same year. The government conceded that the Australian Fisheries Management Authority had made errors in implementing the current legislation and were not able to properly and effectively assess the impact that the trawler would have on the environment. Originally, the Greens put forward a motion in Parliament to reduce the quota on the limit of fish to be caught. However, this was unsuccessful. In another unsuccessful political movement, several Labor MPs supported an attempt to ban fishing vessels which were capable of storing more than 2,000 tonnes of their catch. Finally, the Environment Minister Tony Burke put forward legislation that would extend his legal powers under the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act, with the intent of delaying permission for the ship to commence operations until further scientific research is completed. This was passed in government and began in November 2012, forcing the Abel Tasman to cease its fishing operations and leave Australian waters to fish other areas. One of the major factors that led to the boat being disallowed from fishing Australian waters was the death of protected Australian seals and other marine life from which were being caught in the trawler's nets. There are fears that the super trawler will deplete the level of fish in Australian waters to a dangerously low level, permanently damaging the ecosystem and cutting off the food supply for other marine and animal life in the area. According to the Tasmanian Conservation Trust, the trawler will target the food source for several species including the endangered southern bluefin tuna, seafish, marine mammals and game fish. The 18,000 tonnes per annum, according to Professor Keith Sainsbury of the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Studies, is sustainable, stating that "I have no doubt that this fishery is an example of the world's best practice and it meets or exceeds the most rigorous scientific requirements for an ecological sustainable fishery on forage fish." Contradictory to the government decision, Dr. Mike Kelly, who is the former Parliamentary Secretary for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, said that Australia has the world's best practice sustainable fishery management and that the community should be very confident how this vessel would be managed under our regulatory regime. Supporting this is Australian Recreational Fishing Foundation spokesperson Alan Hansard, who states, "At an aggregate level, the science tells us that the Abel Tasman is likely to have minimal impact on total fish stocks." Whilst the trawler was banned for a minimum of 2 years, there is lack of scientific evidence to support the claims that the super trawler is detrimental to the long-term sustainability of the species of fish being caught. Therefore, the issue surrounding the case involving the Abel Tasman being banned from trawling Australian waters is not how science was used to reach the legislative decision, but rather the lack of science used in the decision process. It appears that the decision to ban the super trawler was driven more by public and political opinion, rather than actual scientific evidence fact associated with the environment in question. The 18,000 tonne limit set by the Australian Fisheries Management Authority is actually less than half the total allowable catch for the fish species being targeted, which is based on the conservative strategy of taking less than 10% of the biomass. This ensures that the continued survival of the targeted catch and that it would not have depleted the fish from the local environment. Adding to this, small pelagic fish species are relatively fast-growing and very fertile, as well as being extremely resilient to fishing and environmental change. A PowerPoint is a great tool for creating a visually aesthetic presentation. The ready-made themes, as well as the vast editing and design options, make it easy to convey the topic and its meaning. Converting this into video format with audio adds to the educational experience. The viewer can engage in the topic both by looking and listening. The video PowerPoint allows for the viewer to be guided effectively through the information and the topic.